Hi, everyone. Happy New Year. I want to welcome you, those of you who were able to take time to join us today. You know, we constantly work on the Better Bones program, and it's always interesting to me to see how we can maintain the momentum that we gained at the retreat, how we can continue it over time. I've talked to many of you in the retreat in consultations. We see that people are doing pretty good keeping up with their programs. We see there's some new fun things, and it's always great to have the chance to ask your questions. Now let's see, Alyssa, how do we get this? Can we get a slide going here? Yep. It's just not going to be much of a slide presentation, but I just want to take a minute to remind us of the various steps of the program. Right, so the first thing I'm going to ask you all is how we do in the pH. You know, do we get that 6.5 to 7.5 first morning reading? So I'm going to be, we're a small enough group, we'll be able to chat about that. We can actually probably open up all the microphones because we probably won't get too much feedback, but we want to know about the pH. If people are having like great ideas about the cooking, that's good to know. If they found some simplifications, or if they have areas where there's a question, if you say, like, I really like 5 good soups or some simple things I could do, let's talk about that. I'm just in the process of getting ready to write another book, and we're collecting all the data I've learned in the last 20 years since the first book, and it's very helpful to look and see what people are really concerned with, what people want to hear. So we're interested, of course, in the pH. We're interested in knowing if people followed up on any of the tests I suggest they should have. And there's been a couple cases from the retreats where we were able to uncover a hidden cause of bone loss, whether it be a loss of calcium in the urine or or disturbance of parathyroid hormone. So it's very good to try to follow up on those tests and to know what your actual rate of bone breakdown is right now. And that's, of course, the NTX test. The supplement program is center to our work, and so I always like to know how you're doing. Can you digest the supplements well? Are they giving you any problem? Many people get a loose stool, and that's often from magnesium. And you've probably heard me talk. It's not that they don't need magnesium, but that they have a block to magnesium uptake, and you need to correct that block. So if any of you are having that experience, let's definitely talk about it. Digestion, a really big part of the program. I'm starting to think that almost everyone with a bone issue has some weakness in digestion, that we aren't able to utilize the best of all the nutrients. In fact, I've just been talking with a colleague of mine from India, Dr. Joshi, who's a very famous homeopath who travels the world teaching classic homeopathy. She's going to help us actually she's going to join our team and give us some webinars on building digestive strength with homeopathic remedies, kind of common everyday homeopathic remedies. And then I'm pleased to say she's going to be available to do consultations if people want to really get their own personalized homeopathic remedy. Those remedies are based on your constitution. It's a very comprehensive process. I've been working with her for a few years actually to get my right remedy. And I must say it's made a big difference in my life. Exercise, of course. The big news with exercise is that it's becoming very clear that you can build bone. In fact, if you got to see my predictions for 2019, one of them is that we're going to be able to say that osteoporosis is reversible, that your doctor can no longer say it can't be reversed, because there's many cases now that doing appropriate care with all the nutrients, with all the other steps, and then loading the bone in a way that causes the bone actually to bend can send a signal. The trick is, how do you bend bone without hurting bone? And this is the issue of proper bone loading, which they figured out how to do in Australia. They figured out how to do with this OsteoStrong machine. And we're working with a local gym here that actually that even does their own bone density test. And they're seeing very great results as women build muscle. So exercise is a great topic. About the stress and worry, I'm really happy to say that Dr. Joshi, is going to work with us with homeopathy for this. Stress is a total energetic mental concept. And so we're going to produce another energy in the body with these homeopathic remedies that are going to be helpful to deal with that. If some people say, look, I just am distracted by this level of anxiety or this level of nervousness. So every step of the program, we're interested in that. I do have a question or two, but let me just answer, and a couple of the questions are really long, so let me just answer one or two, and then you who are able to attend can ask your questions. We'll kind of take off from there. This was actually Janet. Let's see, Janet, I don't think she didn't know she could be with us. We'll be able to
She's there.
Oh, hi Janet. Okay.
Do you want me to unmute her?
Yeah, unmute Janet. We're gonna unmute Janet. How you doing, Janet?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
Good. We got good sound here. So, you ask, do I have a recommendation for a particular brand of collagen? Have I read the collagen from scales of wild-caught fish is the best? Some marine collagens are jellyfish, and according to what I've read, they're not as good. So yeah, you've been reading up on collagen, that's for sure. Fish scale collagen, in my mind, is the best. There's where the research is showing that it helps to build bone. The bone is about half collagen by volume. And it would see if you could take collagen, build collagen, it really makes really good sense. But the only research really, the strongest piece of research is with fish collagen. And it's interesting, the company I work with is doing some work in Iceland, and they produce a fish collagen up there. And we're trying to see if we could possibly introduce that product. The only fish collagen product I find that has any fish collagen is this guy Axe, Dr. Axe. He has one that I personally been using that from time to time. At first I thought it was really great, and you know how you can tell by your nails. Like you say, gee, my nails are a lot stronger, a lot better. But now I'm not so sure. So I'm still looking around for other collagens. Mostly you see beef, and really what you're talking about is the hide of beef, making your own chicken, cooking up, making broth where you cook up bones a long time, get that collagen out. What do you use, Janet? What do you use for collagen?
Well, I've been using a beef collagen for a while.
Right.
In land of lakes.
Well, there's Great Plains and a bunch of them, yeah.
Yeah, and then I just bought a fish collagen. I don't have it in front of me. But
Is it pure fish collagen or mixed with other things?
It's purports to be wild-caught fish and the scales of the fish. So,
The scales of fish, yeah. Yeah, let me know what that is, because I think there is some research on scales of fish, and it looks pretty good. I think part of the thing, what you can go by is, if your nails are a little soft, like if you take your thumb and you sort of click your nail like this, if your nail's a little soft, then you'd say, yeah, they're getting a little stronger. They're getting a little stronger. That's about the only way I can detect really what's going on with collagen. I mean, you'd like to be able to see things in the skin. I don't know. But let me know how it goes.
Okay.
I think that's a very great idea. You also had a question about vitamin D.
Yes.
So why don't you tell us that?
Well, I've been told that I should take my vitamin D in the evenings, and I guess it's because we get vitamin D during the day. Is it any more effective to take vitamin D3 in the evening?
Well, vitamin D is stored in the body for quite a long time, so I don't think it makes a difference what time of day. In other words, it doesn't have a short half-life that it comes and goes. What they do know about vitamin D, it's fat soluble, so if you have it with a fatty meal, it's probably better absorbed. So if you have it with a meal rather than, and maybe some meal where you have some fat,
okay,
probably better.
Thank you.
But I don't think it matters what time of day you take it.
Thank you.
And your last question is really very interesting. Before we, and I can spend a long time talking about intermittent fasting. I've been studying autophagy and intermittent fasting, and I think it's really great. We'll talk about it, but let me see now. We got Sally and Gail and Mary. Let's see. Do you other women have any particular questions or anything you'd like to comment on?
If they have any questions, you can write it in the group chat, or we can unmute you.
Yeah, we can unmute you. I think there's a way to stick up your hand there. Why don't you let's just unmute them and see for a second. I'm going to unmute everyone, and then if we get a feedback, we'll just shut it down. But just give me an idea.
Okay, everyone's unmuted.
Okay. So Sally, can you hear me? Okay.
Yep.
Hey, so how are your pHs going?
I'm sorry, say it again.
I say, so how are your pHs? Your pH readings?
Well, I'm in the middle of a bunch of different procedures, like I'm having chelation because I had 4 times the amount of lead in my blood, they found out. And so I'm having all these things done. So I'm kind of in the process of trying to feel better and work my bones at the same time. So it's a little complicated.
You know, that's interesting. Did they find any source for lead? Any exposure to lead?
It's really echoey when you talk for some reason.
Okay, yeah, it's because of our, yeah.
I think because everybody's unmuted.
Yeah. Let's just try one at a time. Let's see how that goes. Lucky we have Alyssa here handy on the draw here to do all this computer stuff. So did they happen to find any cause of source of the lead?
No. I asked, and her best guess was I'm a child of the 60s and 70s with lead gas, lead plates, lead paint, and I've got, I think, 3 more chelation sessions, and then I'll be done. And another interesting thing for the group just to share is I have breast implants, and I'm having them removed in a couple of months, and I think that might have something to do with my autoimmune issues.
Well, that's right. You know, and now that's very important. And now they have it's been very well known that the body doesn't often accept those implants. And now, of course, my mentor, Dr. Jaffe, developed a test for even dental materials and for all sorts of implants to see if they would be compatible with your particular chemistry. But I think that's a very wise move to have those removed.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that miraculously after I finish the chelation and have that surgery, that I'll feel a lot better.
Well, it won't be so miraculous as the fact that you're really working at it. I know in my own case, I had a high lead reading at menopause, and what it was about, just like you, we grew up, our bones stored lead when we were young. That's where the body sticks the lead. And then when you go through menopause, you start breaking down bone, you start liberating that lead. And so you get very high levels. There's been quite a few studies on that, and your lead should come down with the chelation and just with time. And what Dr. Jaffe often says is high dose of ascorbate, that vitamin C powder, plenty of magnesium, will help you produce these metallothioneins, which are how the body naturally removes lead and heavy metal from the body. So I hope you're able to do those nutrients.
And the only other thing I wanted to say is I have my first Osteo Strong appointment tomorrow, and I'm very excited about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see, that's a very interesting thing that they've known for some time that bodybuilders can build bone strength, but they have never tried to do it for the public as a whole. In fact, most people don't want to spend, hours in the gym lifting weights. So this guy, Janish, he developed a way that you can exert a great pressure on bones by just pushing 4 different movements. Have you heard their introduction yet or anything?
Yeah, it's just 10 minutes or 20 minutes, something like that, once a week. I'm really excited to try it.
Yes. And it's very interesting because the idea is that you put a great load on the bones. Like if I'm pushing something as hard as I can, but I control it so I don't go too far and damage the bone. Now it's very interesting. I've seen some clients do that. They, the results are kind of mixed. The studies that they show are very few. There's 11 where they've actually done the bone densities, or 15 and 11 were successful. But now they're having people do the bone density test. Will you do a bone density test with them?
I just did a bone density test not that long ago, so I'll probably do another one after a certain period of time.
Yeah, be sure to use the same machine. And generally it takes, we rarely would do it before a year, but I think they often do. The interesting thing, enjoy that, have fun with that. The interesting thing, the Australian group, you might have seen my blog on the Australian Bone Clinic.
Yes.
If the rest of you haven't looked at that website, it's really pretty fascinating. This was again in Australia, a woman who was training women for Iron Women. She noticed they gained a lot of bone. So she hooked up with a physician who was very interested in bone health. And what they have done is they got their bone density machine. They have people come in, they measure them up, and they start doing just, again, 5 or 6 simple exercises, very much like the one, the OsteoStrong, but they use weights, not those machines that give that resistance. And they are building bone density in older women quite nicely. So these Australian people are now doing, they're challenging, so to speak, the OsteoStrong. They're doing a study with like 100 men, a very sophisticated study, comparing that biodensity machine, which is what OsteoStrong is, just a franchise of the biodensity, and their program. So it'll be really interesting to see how that comes out. And it's a very comprehensive study. It's looking at many factors. Like, one thing they find with weightlifters, often say they build good arms or good legs, but they often lose mass like in the cranium. So there's a question, is there a redistribution of bone? Is it just you're moving bone around? So they're going to look at that. I'll be sure to let you know as soon as that study comes out. I think they've been, I think they're well underway with that study. So in the meantime, you'll be your own little study to see how you come along with the OsteoStrong.
I will. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it'll be very nice.
I think that's it for me.
Okay, okie doke. So I want you to unmute Gail, because Gail has been the kindest person, sending us all sorts of encouraging letters and beautiful cards. Gail, how you doing?
Hi, Dr. Brown. I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. I want to thank you for all your lovely cards.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Definitely are an artist at heart there, for sure.
Thank
Are
you.
your pHs in line?
They are coming down. Yes,
Good.
they were up too high. When we talked last week, you said they were too high. So I was really working hard to do everything alkalizing. So I think I was a little high, but I'm down now. I've had some varying from actually today I was only 6.0, but I've been about upper 6 to about 7, up to 7.2.
Yeah, that's what we're looking, 6.5 to 7.5. Yeah. And you're okay with the supplements? Everything are going okay with the supplements?
Yes, my only problem is on the repair guard. I'm having trouble getting that in 3 times a day because I don't eat 3 meals a day every day.
How many?
I guess just a smoothie in the middle of the day with 2 of those would work, huh?
The repair guard is unique in that it won't give you an upset stomach to have it on an empty stomach, and you can stick it in a glass of water or a smoothie and it'll dissolve, and then you just stir it up. It just becomes a little flaky.
Okay, so I don't need a meal with it every time.
You don't need a meal with it. And the reason we think of that is for like pain and inflammation. We think of to have to take it more than just that once or twice a day.
Okay.
Good. And have you seen some improvements?
Yes, I have. Well, when I spoke with you, I was telling you I was having some pain and stiffness at night. And just this week, that seems to be much improved.
Oh, good.
So I think the supplements are starting to really get into my system and work.
Are you able to get some gentle exercises or some exercises?
Yes, I have done a couple of the yoga exercises. I signed up for the Exercise Evolution.
Oh, right, with Gina, yeah.
Yes, and so I did the one yesterday with the vest. I couldn't get all the way through, but I did about a little over half of that yoga exercise.
And that's the thing with that Exercise Evolution, you can just begin little by little, do as much as you like. Gina and I are having a lot of fun doing that. She does the basic exercise ones, and then I give a commentary. And I'm going to be talking soon about strength training. We're going to have some people showing us examples of strength training. We're going to be talking about doshas, this idea of exercising for your body constitution. And this homeopath that I mentioned, I think will give us some chats too about helping with particularly injury or soreness after exercise, some minor injuries, that sort of thing.
Yes. I also spoke with you about my blood pressure, and my readings are coming down a little bit this week. I'm focusing more on foods that are friendly for blood pressure, and I have done meditation this week. So
yes, and you remember that the original one, very early approach to blood pressure was Herbert Benson, the relaxation response, where he used transcendental meditation at Harvard and got great results with hypertension. And actually, as we exhale slowly, we stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system. So inhaling and exhaling slowly really affects the parasympathetic nervous system, which in large part controls that blood pressure. That's great. That's great. The combination of the foods. And what are the foods that are friendly for blood pressure? What mineral are they high in? Anybody know?
I don't know. In the minerals, I'm eating lots of fruits and leafy greens.
Yeah. Leafy greens, because you know what? Potassium. Potassium is the nutrient that is very good for blood pressure. In fact, the diet called the DASH diet, that's a high potassium, low sodium diet, which the government has endorsed for decades for hypertension, very much like our alkaline diet. So look at that potassium, the list of high potassium foods, and use those. That's great.
Okay.
Right, perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Thanks. Mm-hmm.
Yes, we're going to be writing a little more, reminding people that it's the DASH diet is great for hypertension. It's high potassium, same thing exactly in an alkaline diet. Why don't we take a second before we get to Jan's other question? Let's look at Mary here. We're going to find out what Mary's doing. Let's mute you. I see how you do that. Okay. Hey, Mary, welcome. How are you? Mary, is Mary unmuted? I wonder.
Maybe her microphone isn't working.
Oh, maybe her microphones are not working yet. Doesn't seem to come on. Okie doke. So Mary, if you have any questions, just type it in to the chat box and then we'll be in great shape. So,
Sue or Linda?
is Linda on the phone, is she? Yeah, some people their microphones, they're not in a microphone situation. So we're
Linda, do you have a question for Dr. Brown?
Linda, can you hear us?
Yes, actually, I'm listening to the meeting on my phone. So can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Great. How are you doing?
Really well. But I did actually, Dr. Brown, around the holidays, and I know everyone was probably on holiday because of Christmas and the New Year's, but
Right.
I had sent an email to Gina following a doctor's visit that I had in November.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you've seen it yet or not, and I actually didn't even anticipate that you would talk about it today. But the reason why I'm listening is because I really wasn't sure whether or not you saw my email. But in a nutshell,
yeah, tell me. I think I did see it, and I thought I answered it. So yeah, tell me the question again. Let's see.
Okay.
And I want to get your file out so we can check that. Yeah.
Okay. Basically, the concern that I had coming out of my doctor's meeting was that I had my annual physical in November along with my annual gynecological exam.
Okay.
And she said to me, well, we discussed, my bone health, and although I've seen her for, my pap smear and things like that, we don't see eye to eye on my bone health.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't really pursued much with her personally, as opposed to doing what I'm doing with my own program that you prescribed for me. Mm-hmm. And then with a few modifications since then, I had attended your March retreat. But in any event, she had suggested, well, why don't we just go ahead and check your NTX? And I said, yes, it doesn't hurt. It's been a few months, and I always like to keep track of that number.
Right.
So what I emailed to you were results from my January 2016 reading, which was 34. My September 2016 reading was 29, which, course of 9 months, it had dropped. And then November 17, the reading jumped to 39, which was 10 units higher than September a year ago. And then the most recent, which was November 2018, it jumped to 46.
Yes.
And
yes. Right. And I see it here. Okay, I'm sorry, Linda. Go ahead on.
Okay. She called me after those results came in, and she expressed concern. And she told me that she would prefer that she saw my number below 30. Mm-hmm. And then, I saw on your website, well, your normal range is like between 30 to the mid 40s. Mm-hmm. Well, No, I'm the mid-40s, but what's concerning to me is that it jumped, despite the protocol that I've been following, it jumped from 39 to 46. And
yep.
I'm concerned about that. She wants me to see a bone specialist, and before I did anything about pursuing that avenue, I wanted to get your feedback on what you think that might be. And then in addition to that information in my email, I am also on a few different collagen supplements. Mm-hmm. And I don't know whether or not, because this is, you know, I mean, I'm a layperson trying to understand all this, but these units of collagen that are being, that is the result of the NTX test. And I'm on 2 different collagen supplements, and I don't know if they affect my NTX number.
Yeah. You know, Linda, I got that message and I responded to you on January 2nd. And
I never got.
I wonder what happened with this email. I sent you an email January 2nd. It's from Susan E. Brown, the Brown Better Bones at Gmail. So I have a copy of that right here, but I will, well, let's talk about it right now. But I'm so glad you brought it up, because I spent quite a bit of time looking at that. And I too was like saying, what the heck's going on here? So what I said in your email is that what I said in my response was that I received your email December 22nd, and I find it strange that the NTX is going up. My first question is about the strontium use. On your supplement sheet of 518, I saw that there was no strontium listed, but on the supplement use of 1218, I saw it was listed. So what happened with the strontium over the period of time here between 2016 and 2018, let's say?
I had not, well, from 518 to 1218, the most recent supplement list that I sent you.
Yep.
Okay. I don't know, because I've been on it consistently, unless it was just a typographical that it wasn't listed. But I have been religiously on it. I think since we had talked, even, you know, March of earlier this year, you had commented on it.
Okay, so you have one bone density. I mean, the NTX, the latest NTX was November 2018, and the one before, correct, and then the other one you had was a year before that, of November of 2017. So that whole year you were on the strontium. Yes. And what dose were you on?
Well, it had been rather high, which in your opinion, it was high. Mm-hmm. The recommended dose were...
it's like 650 milligrams, the dose that they use for the drug therapy.
I was taking twice that much, which was what the recommended dosage was, I think, at the time. And so when I think with your recommendation of something lower, which is the 600 or whatever, I come back to 1. And I'm just taking 1 a day instead of, I think I was taking 2.
So when did you cut that back? When you saw me in March, or?
Yeah, it was probably subsequent to the March retreat. I had adjusted that.
Now let's look at that carefully. See, it is very strange that your markers would go up. And it is, for a postmenopausal woman to have like a 29, like originally you had a 29 in 2016, and then you had a 39, then you had this 46. So you know that something is holding that down. The premenopausal mean is 36, and you just don't get that unless usually it's because some drug or something is enforcing low turnover. However, there are some situations where people have normally low turnover, but that we can't tell in your case, because ever since I dealt with you, I guess you were on strontium. So I would pay attention to the dose. Let's see what happened. It's very possible. Give me the brand of the strontium you use so we can see the exact amount that's in there.
Okay, let me grab the bottle real quick. Because this NTX matter has been a concern of mine, and I've been reading the whole body approach to osteoporosis from Keith McCormick. Sure. And it's ironic because just this week I was having lunch, and I was reading through, I mean, it's a kind of a book that's, in fact, I love the book. It's wonderful. But to absorb all the information in it, I can't read it very quickly because I'm highlighting and I'm doing all kinds of
yeah,
things.
it's pretty,
It's very intense. Hang on a minute, I'm trying to find my strontium here. Oh, I found it. Okay. But anyway, what I wanted to comment on about this one particular chapter in his book that I just opened up to start to read, he's going into a lot of discussion on the testing, the supplements that help certain situations that you might be experiencing some imbalance. Some of the ones that he was talking about was berberine. There's a whole menu of things that I could possibly, consider using or modifying or something like that. But so anyway, I'm doing some of my own research, trying to figure out, okay, number one, what other tests might be available that I could have done to see if to go deeper than what I've already had done. What can I do to change my supplements that might have an impact on lowering my number? Those are the kinds of things that I'm kind of exploring now and looking for some feedback from you on that.
Sure.
So that's something to think about. But in any event, the supplement that I'm taking, they're very pure, and I've taken them for quite some time. I take a couple of different things from this. It's called, his name is Joe DiMatteo, and he's out of Pittsburgh, and he has a radio broadcast, and actually, unfortunately, he just passed away this past year, but his son, and he has a whole office, a wellness office in Pittsburgh. In fact, he had previously offered the perk supplements, some of which I had been on a number of years ago, and then his has evolved into his own product. But it's called Daily Essentials, Strontium Essentials, and the dosage is, one capsule
the Daily
is...
Essential Company, okay, let's look it up. Yeah, what does it say on the bottle? Yeah. Okay.
The website is askjoedimatteo.com.
And he sells the strontium?
Yes, he sells a whole range of supplements. And this is, the strontium that I'm taking is part of the Daily Essentials program. And one capsule is 950 milligrams of strontium citrate, and then 300 milligrams of strontium as strontium citrate. So there's
So there's 300 milligrams of strontium there. So the dose that is used is about 650 or 700. So each tablet you say has 300 elemental strontium?
Well, I'm confused because the first line of the supplement fact says strontium citrate, 950 milligrams.
Yeah, but so most of that is citrate. You see, the minerals always have to be attached to something. So the strontium is attached to citrate. So you account for citrate and most of it is citrate. The strontium, we can look up and see exactly what percentage, but you can see it right there because they say the strontium citrate is 900.
Right, and then right below it says strontium, another 300 milligrams, and that says the same thing, strontium citrate.
That's 300 milligrams, right?
Yes.
Okay, now tell me, hold on a second, how many capsules for the 300 milligrams? How many capsules?
One.
It says, so the dose is one capsule gives that amount.
So his dosage is one capsule 2 times per day.
Right, because
and so I had been taking 2, and then I cut back to 1.
Right. So here's what happens. Linda. You see, like if you take like any mineral, like a calcium, it doesn't stand free. You just don't take calcium. You take calcium attached to something. Calcium is a positive charge. It's attached to a negative charge. So like calcium carbonate, calcium citrate, same thing with strontium. You don't just take strontium, they take strontium. The drug is strontium relenate. This is strontium citrate. What is delivering actually the elemental strontium is 300 milligrams. The dose that they use in these drug trials is about 650 milligrams of elemental strontium. So when you took 2 of his pills, you were getting close to the dose that is used to suppress bone breakdown. And when you did those 2 doses, you were doing pretty fine. But then when you cut down, your bone breakdown increased. You see,
Okay.
we're relying on the strontium to halt that bone breakdown. Now, many times with the clients, I'll say, I don't like people using high dose strontium because it's totally unnatural. And in Europe, they almost took it off the market, the drug form strontium relenate, because they got so many problems with it. But they've allowed it just when the other drugs don't work. So no one has studied natural strontium because there's no money behind it, there's no drug. And everyone is thinking, well, it's perfectly safe. Who knows? It's totally unnatural to have that much strontium. But nonetheless, if a person says, look, this is the way I can halt my bone breakdown, I think it's much better than our drugs. We always try to say, let me go back and see, why do I need this stuff in the first place? Why is my bone breakdown so high? But I think what happened in your case, and I'm really sorry you didn't get it. I'll resend this. That's exactly what I wrote you. I said, Gina resent it.
Dr. My address is incorrect because Gina just forwarded it to me. And the spelling of my last name is incorrect in my outlook.com. It's HIMES, and it was sent to LMHINES. And so that's why I didn't get it.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad we got that straight. Gina and Liz will take care of that. You know, it's really funny because we sent you a letter too. You know, we sent out this little letters about the new retreat, and it came back. So we must have had your address wrong too.
Yeah, it is. And I have been checking the website on your new retreat, and I'm further exploring that opportunities. But but in the meantime, and meanwhile, I mean, I was even going to try and plan to attend the Sedona retreat, but it seems as though from listening to even just a few participants that are on this call now, that there's so much more information that perhaps you might have even discussed that has evolved since March. And
but you know, there's always an endless, there is a virtual explosion of information in all of nutrition, but we maintain just a little steady course. Like with Linda, with your case, we really should take a few minutes. The immediately when I saw it, I said, I bet there's something changed in the strontium dose. So we say, okay. So you know, you could go back to your higher strontium dose. It would bring that NTX down. But you might say, let me see why, you know, can I change my program so I bring those numbers down? And this might be the interesting challenge. You know, you've had a lot of tests. You've got the vitamin D, the parathyroid, the 24-hour urine calcium. I mean, the DHEA, you did every single test I like to see. And and I'd say all of them except the old days, they looked at protein, the B. It was a little bit low to me, but your profile looks very good. So we'd say, what's going on here? Now, we could take Keith McCormick's path. And I know Keith well. You could say, let's measure some inflammatory markers. And if your doctor's open, I'll be happy to list these for you later, like interleukin 6, interleukin 1, TNF alpha, inflammatory markers, and see, can we bring, see if the inflammation's high. Then you've got another marker to watch, bringing them down. We're using some new things like, I don't know, I don't see that you're on curcumin. We really like that. We're using a little bit more of this Repair Guard we didn't give you. But most of all, I think the wonderful challenge would be to use our protocol, these PERC products. Now, I can look and see because Joe DiMatteo, I know him, and he probably private labeled the PERC products. We can look and see. Many people do that. And if, I don't know, but the point is, you're not doing, you need that strontium, so there's some force leading to an imbalanced bone breakdown. The average woman your age will have like an NTX of 50, losing a little bit of bone, like 1% a year. I'd like to get mine down to 40, something in the 40s. We're not going to get back to that premenopausal mean unless we take a drug. So my challenge would be, I mean, I'm not going to say we need another test, but I would certainly be happy to list these inflammatory markers because Osteoporosis is an inflammatory situation. If you can change those markers, you know you're doing well. But I would say go on. So you never really tried the Lifeguard, Bone Guard, the vitamin K, the sort of stuff we do, our protocol?
Say that again.
I'm talking so fast. Did you happen to try our protocol? You know, the Lifeguard, the Bone Guard, the vitamin K, the Repair Guard, the vitamin.
Yes, I'm following that. It's on my December 18 list. I mean, I've been following everything.
Oh, you were
that
doing
you've
that in addition to Damadio's product.
Yes, there are just a few that I continued taking, which was the strontium of his.
Right. Okay.
Let's see, what else am I taking? That's pretty much.
Yes,
I
that's
take
right.
I take an immune support, and I also take a cardiovascular support. I take 3.
I see.
Now my D3 is his too, because I'm trying to exhaust one from a previous program. He had his own osteoporosis program, of which D3 and strontium were part of that, and that's why I continue to take strontium.
I mean, strontium is a shortcut. Strontium is the drug. You're taking a drug therapy, and so, but it's not called a drug in this country. And so but when you seem to need the full dose of that. So my only question is, why? You know, why can't we do a bit better? Of course, I see your list here of supplements. You do the cider, the ashwagandha, the Bone Guard.
And you want your curcumin supplement, and I apologize, I must have missed that from my list.
You got and how long have you been doing the super curcumin?
Oh, I've been doing everything on that list religiously since you prescribed them back in March.
Okay, so that's
the only thing that did increase, I think the last time that you and I talked was back in May, and you were concerned about increasing my protein and increasing my magnesium.
Yeah, I see you got the Bone Guard and the Life Guard, and your pHs. How are they looking?
They're hanging good. You know, there's different fluctuations depending upon where my location is from weekend to weekend, because I'm back and forth from my home in Pittsburgh.
Oh, I remember. That's right. You travel there, yeah.
I do travel a bit, but you know, I'm doing very, very well with it. Another thing I decided to try to do is I read one of your blogs where you were recommending the pure potassium, and I don't think I'm getting enough potassium, and I don't know why I'm thinking that. I think it's just because it's hard to get a lot of potassium-rich foods in my diet. So I started taking the potassium supplement to see if that would help. You know,
how many milligrams? You see, potassium, the RDA for potassium is 4,700. That's 5 times that of calcium. That's 13 servings of fruits and vegetables. Nobody gets it. If everyone got it, they would alkalize. So a few hundred milligrams of potassium, 1,000, often helps people. How much are you taking, do you know?
I'm taking the prescribed amount. Let me see here.
Did I tell you to take potassium?
I'm taking one in the morning and one in the one with my morning meal and one with my evening meal.
So is it a little capsule you got from us?
It's the one that you no. Well, you recommended it just recently on a blog. You were referring to there was an acid neutralizing supplement, and then you had you advertised the Pure brand of potassium. And so I got that to add to my potassium reserves, and that's the dosage.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that was our message, but we do. I mean, it's reasonable to add.
It came from your website. You know what? I'm wondering if it came from Women's Network.
Yeah, because we don't sell Pure. We use potassium. We often give 200 milligram capsules, and people take 2 or 3 a day. That's probably what you're doing.
You definitely recommended it as a product to use. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to give this a try. And I just started to use it. I'm on my first bottle.
Pure
So
encapsulations, potassium.
No, the brand name is Pure.
Pure.
P-U-R.
Okay, let's check and see. Because the dose is what you're thinking. See, it's going to be a potassium citrate or potassium bicarb. And
It says potassium aspartate, potassium citrate, and then there's 22 milligrams of C as ascorbyl palmitate.
okay, and how many of those do you take?
I'm taking 2 a day,
Yeah,
which is the recommended dosage.
Yeah, that's right. That's fine. That's 200 milligrams. That's right, because it's only like 400 milligrams, and the RDA is 4,000. So perfect. That'll help alkalize. But you know, I'm just kind of taken back by. I mean, it's pretty simple in the sense that the strontium was what's got keeping the NTX down. So what we have to think about is, especially if you're doing the curcumin and that, what's what's the it's like almost like a person who's very near menopause where the bone loss is kind of accelerated and hard to halt, but beyond menopause, right? You're more than 5 years beyond menopause, right?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you and I will continue with that. I'm glad that so it's a strontium. So talk with your doc and see if you just want to go. She wants you to go back on strontium, or you want to. But I guarantee, and probably just in a month, you'd see that NTX change. But
well, actually, I'll go back to 2 a day, and next time I have my NTX, I'll go ahead and send you the results.
Yeah, and then we can later, if we want to probe and see why. What else could you do that wouldn't have to use it? Strontium. There are. I would definitely like to consider probing a little bit deeper on that. I know strontium might be helping, but perhaps, as you say, if there's another underlying issue, I really want to find that out. Well, it sounds like your doctor's open, so we could do with some inflammatory markers. Let's let you and I talk later and try to, and I'll think about it too to see, because usually we usually see that our program is enough to halt that. Yeah. In the meantime, I did find in his book, he has a small paragraph on pro-inflammatory cytokines. Exactly. And he mentioned IL-1 and IL-6. That'd be great. We can measure those and do some. Yeah, let you and I talk, because we're writing now on inflammatory cytokines. They're IL-6, IL-1, and TNF alpha. They can be ordered through various. Your doctor could certainly get them. So yeah, okay. Let's chat about that. That's our next. Yeah. That's our next step for sure in our program. Okay, that sounds good. Well, I'm not sure how long you want to talk. Maybe you want to wait until after I maybe do another 6-month test on my NTX. Yeah. You won't need 6 months though. You'll see that probably in 6 weeks actually. But that sounds good. On the strontium. Yeah. You mean with the okay. Yeah, strontium's good. Okay. Nice talking to you. Sounds great. Okay, thank you. You're welcome. I'm going to move on here. That Mary has got a question. My pH numbers are really inconsistent. Highest was probably 6.8, but usually lower. Doesn't really seem to follow with what I've recently eaten. Is it more a measure of long-term diet rather than recent diet? What happens when the pH is like that? You say some days it's good, some days it's not good. Some days I get that 6.5, other I'm 6. It means you just do not have enough alkali reserve. In other words, when you build a lot of reserve, and you get this from building these, from these citrates, these carbonates, these scorbates that get stored in the body and stored in bone and tissue. And then when you have enough reserve, if you get a little acid load, you go out and have some birthday cake, you have a hamburger, whatever, then you can buffer it easily. So what it just means, Mary, is we just have to be a little more persistent to bring up the alkali reserves. Like with more magnesium, we generally use magnesium citrate, or Russ Jaffe's PERC magnesium mix, this little Mag Plus, which is very excellent. More of the buffered C, the PERC buffered C, which alkalizes. Most vitamin C's won't alkalize, but that does. That's where we usually go first. Of course, some people just say, geez, they drink lemon juice in the morning, juice of a whole lemon or juice of a whole lime, that helps. Or people take drinking apple cider vinegar. Just need to build up your reserves a little bit more. But you're getting close if you're, 6.8 is good. That's all we ever need. We don't really need higher than that. So build your reserves. The potassium foods. I sent you all a list of high potassium foods. If you don't have it, you can find it on our website. These are the foods that alkalize. Let me see here. Yeah, then Gail, there's a question about the strontium. I'm a bit confused about the use of strontium. You said no one studied it, use a natural use in our country, right? Is it in your supplement protocol? Okay. Strontium in small doses, like 5 milligrams, 10 milligrams, is really dietary. It's in the water, it's in the soil, so it gets in the food chain, and it's helpful to bone. And the periodic chart is quite near to fluoride. And so it does seem to help bone. And so you want it a little dietary amount. In the supplements, the perk supplements, or the supplements I produce, we just have a small dietary amount of strontium. When the researchers saw that strontium helped with bone, they say, let's do a lot of it and see what it does. So instead of 10 or 20 milligrams, they use 600, 700. And they made it a drug because they want to patent it. And so they took strontium and combined it with renolinic acid. That's the drug, strontium relenate, that's made in Europe. That drug is not sold in the U.S., but the people in the U.S. are allowed to use strontium as a mineral in whatever dose they want. And so that's what happens there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and because there's no money in it, nobody's going to study it. But, and there's no horrible side effects that people notice. So it just passes by the board. But we always try to do things in natural doses as much as we can.
Oh, and Dr. Brown, while I'm unmuted, I wanted to ask you about the Lifeguard Mini that I'm taking. You said there was one that you can't smell the vitamin as well. I have this one. Can you see it? I don't know if you're seeing me. Are you seeing me?
I'm not seeing you, nobody. But it's no, I don't see. But it's a Lifeguard Mini you have.
Okay, it's the one that is very strong vitamin smell. So I'm working through it, but it's tough.
Yeah, it's but you have the mini, right?
It says Lifeguard Mini capsules. Yes.
Okay, Gail, here's a story. That Lifeguard, that is a tough one. That Lifeguard is a very potent multivitamin. I love to use it, but it used to be, when they made the big one, it was so strong smelling of the B vitamins. So they put this coating on it now, this little yellow keratin coating, but it still smells a little bit too much for you.
Well, I'm wondering, I guess I do have the one that's the least strong, right? Because it says Lifeguard Mini.
Yeah, the mini is now there's a new mini. I wonder, they coated it recently, so probably several months ago. I wonder, I don't know if Alyssa can tell if what you ordered, but he did coat them because he was getting so many complaints about it.
This one does not look like it's coated, but it might be. I'm not sure.
Yeah. They used to carry a sticker on the top, new sunshine yellow, better taste. I don't know if yours.
No.
It could be that you have some before the new taste. But we'll pay attention, Gail. Plug your nose in the meantime.
That's what I'm doing.
yeah, you'll never even know. And then what we'll do is, if it becomes untenable, if we get you some of the, when you run out of that, we can send you a sample. I can send you some of my own of the coated ones and see if it's any help. And if not, we'll have to find another multi. To my mind, there's just not as good a multi and one that's sourced as well, because Jaffe's really careful that all his sources are from the U.S. in the best possible form, where everyone else gets from China. But we'll do what we have to do. We'll find something different if that doesn't.
Well, I'm doing it, but it's a challenge. But I'm doing a lot of smoothie with it. So.
Well, yeah, but after a while, that's annoying. So we'll work on that.
Thank you.
In November, so she should have the yellow coated.
Yeah,
one.
Alyssa says it probably is the newly coated one because you ordered it in November.
Okay. All
so
right.
we may have to, stick that in some yogurt. Gail, try it, and we'll do an alternative if we need to. Just before we close, I want to answer this one question that actually Jan asked, and it was about the benefits of a 16-hour fast. As an anthropologist, I'm really struck that cultures all over the world have fasting procedures, usually as a part of their religion. But if you look at it and you consider evolutionarily, we had to fast a lot because there wasn't always food. So the human body has this capacity to burn carbohydrates, which we do every day when we have, sugars or bread or pasta or anything. But it also can burn fat, and it can burn fat very effectively. And even the brain can use fuel for fat for fuel. And so what you do when you fast 16 hours, you generally use up your carbohydrate stores, your glycogen in the liver, and the stores that are sugars and carbohydrates that are easily accessible, and then you start burning fat. And then the body goes into a state of actually ketosis. The ketosis is when you're actually burning fat instead of carbohydrates. And they have just recently awarded a Nobel Prize for this Japanese researcher who's discovered that when the body goes a certain period of time without food, and it's this 16 hours and more, it starts to tear down its old tissue and recycle. It says, look, we got to find something to eat. Let's take the old, weakest tissues and recycle them, digest them, use them over again. And this is called autophagy. It won a Nobel Prize. And what it is a great source of regeneration. And this is why traditional cultures several times a year would take a few days with really significant fast. Like the best autophagy is if you can go 3 or 4 days without, like 72 hours without, just on a water. I started dealing with this just for myself, and as far as I got was like 1 full day. But what the stage I'm at now is to do that 16 hours. So to have, anyway, you can divide it however you want. I tend to have a late breakfast, maybe a breakfast around 11 or something, and then have the next meal maybe at 4, and then go all night with that. And the most interesting thing I see is if I eat very few carbs, I do not get hungry at all. But you want to make sure you get all the nutrients. So it's not a thing you want to do forever. I mean, the 16 hours you can do forever, but that far of limiting the food so much, you don't want to, because we really have to deliver these nutrients and the energy to the body. But yeah, it's a very interesting thing. Fasting can be very helpful. And a 16-hour fast to arrange to have 1 or 2 meals a day, that's a great idea. You just have to eat a lot if it's 1 meal. People just eat a whole lot. And then there's a lot on the internet about it. Autophagy, like automatic breaking down old tissue. Eating yourself. It's what eating yourself. That make any sense to you? Are you doing it? Are you trying it?
Oh.
Who that was? Janet. Yeah.
Oh, Janet. We need to unmute Janet.
It's kind of hard to.
Okay, there.
Hey, Jan, have you tried the 16-hour fast?
Yes, for the past couple of days, and it seems to be going well. I'm one who really does get 14 servings of vegetables, and so half cups, that is, and it just seems to help with digestion.
Right. And I think this whole thing of free access to food and eating all the time is a big problem because your digestion needs to rest and you need to stimulate that food. One of the things in Ayurveda is always doing these kind of fasts. And what you do is it's a great cleanse at the change of seasons. And we're going to have our next retreat at an Ayurvedic center. We're going to be talking a little bit about Ayurveda this year. It's my favorite science of nutrition. But now I appreciate more their emphasis on these fasts. And even if it's 1 day a week that, you just take liquids, which Dr. Jaffe would always say, do a liquid diet 1 day a week. This intermittent fasting is really about just having water to get the body into another mode of burning fat and burning its own tissue, recycling its own tissue. Yes, as the year goes on, you'll hear me talk about Ayurveda. I've studied it for a long time, and it just turns out there's a wonderful center where we can give a retreat that won't be very expensive, and we hope to get lots of women involved and start having more women think about how they can take charge of their bone health. The world is changing. No longer are they going to be able to say we can't regenerate bone, and we're coming closer to understanding all the many causes and the individuality. There'll always be some people that are just stuck. You can't figure out why. But in the meantime, we're having a lot of fun with all this, and we hope you can all benefit.
We have one more question from Sue. We haven't
Okay.
gotten to
Oh, okay. There's
her
one
yet.
more thing I can answer
Sue
before we go.
Conway. We can unmute her if she.
Okay.
like.
Yeah. Hey, so Susan, we're going to unmute you here.
Okay, can you hear me?
Just perfectly fine. How you doing?
Good, thanks.
I love seeing all your food on Get Healthy. In fact, it makes me hungry every day. I look at that and go, you gotta be kidding. I can't wait till they're gonna have a system that you can fax food around.
Yeah.
Get on your list.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate to have a consistent alkaline reading, and I feel like my diet's pretty consistent, and so is my exercise. but I haven't done any follow-up testing regarding bone density or any other measures that we might use. And so that was my question in terms of what would be your recommendation for the best way for us to measure our progress using the Better Bones program?
Yeah, I'm going to have Alyssa grab your file so we can look at it because it's very individual, but it is to just what you're exactly up to. But one of the things you can notice is if you feel well, if you feel strong, if you say, geez, I feel like I'm maintaining my muscle, I feel I have good energy, then you know you're on the right track. We lose bone as we lose muscle. It's a whole part of the aging process. And when we feel good, when we have good energy, we know we're on the right track, and it's most likely, like for example, grip strength is a great measure of bone. You know, just how strong your grip is, much less how energy you have to do life and to do exercise and all these sorts of things. Just real quickly, so before we get too late, you're as far as the test, so we saw that your bone density, you know, was one thing. You had the last test in 2017. The NTXs, the pH is good. You're doing the nutrients. You got a nice diet. We could talk later about the exercise. You know, you want to try to build muscle whatever way is comfortable, whether it's yoga, tai chi, strength training. We know that your NTX just the last year was 25. So that was a suppressed bone breakdown. And you weren't on any drugs or anything like that, right? Any bone drugs?
No, I was not.
Yeah. So you have what you'd suggest is low turnover, that you're breaking down very little bone, but you're actually, because then your bone densities, you've still been losing a little bone, but your bone densities are far apart, so we don't know. But I suspect your low turnover, that you aren't breaking down a lot of bone. In your case, what we'd like to see is, you know, I think I would add like curcumin, if you haven't added curcumin to your formula.
No, that's part of what I'm taking.
At super curcumin, okay. And then what we do is we would look at the NTX over time and add this bone formation marker, this bone alkaline phosphatase, to see how that goes. In other words, you have a low turnover situation. There's a whole special set of people like that. And they're often low weight. No attention is paid to them by the doctors. I mean, they say, oh, your bone density is low, take a drug. But the drugs halt bone breakdown. Your bone breakdown's already low. So then we don't like that. So we say, well, let's look at the bone breakdown in ratio to the bone formation and see, can we change those markers? So that's, we should focus a little bit on the program for low bone turnover, and maybe do some of these tests for inflammation, just like we were talking about with Linda, if your doctor is open to that. I wouldn't worry about the bone density for a while, that's for sure.
All right, great. Thanks so much.
And keep up the curcumin, because I'm seeing nice results with them.
We have one more.
Hey, thanks everybody. We're just about ready. We got to end pretty quick here, but I guess I can do one more. This is Jan says, right, that given my NTX serum was so low in December, 7.6. Now this is a serum NTX, right? Yeah, and then usually you think around 12 or 13. I am not on any drugs that would make it that low. So right here in our little group, we got a couple people with low turnover, right? Jan, that's the same thing. This is a low turnover osteoporosis. And if we look at your file and said, God, you're losing bone, but your bone breakdown is very low, then we know we have to stimulate the bone formation. So I'd say, are you doing the curcumin in addition to our whole program? And so then we had things like bone olive. See, what you have to do is be sure to jot down when you started taking these things, and then we're going to look at we would like to look at the NTX and the bone formation marker, which is bone alkaline phosphatase. You know, I'm going to develop a protocol for low turnover, and low turnover is often associated with low weight, actually. It's a very interesting thing. No one's paid any attention to it, but I see it over and over again. And it's a whole different type of osteoporosis that they have not, I mean, the scientists know it, but the average clinician has got no idea. that they're giving a person a drug to halt bone breakdown when their bone breakdown is already very low. So one of my desires, since I discovered hundreds of women like this, is to give a little webinar on low bone breakdown. But I think and it's called low turnover osteoporosis. But the first thing probably to do is to develop a protocol. And if you guys say, look, I'm doing everything you say, we add the curcumin and we add bone olive. Bone olive is an olive extract, or you can do 3 tablespoons of very high quality extra virgin olive oil. I'd get the California stuff. That also stimulates new bone formation. And then we can, there's many Chinese, and we can look into, I have a whole file of things that stimulate new bone formation, so we're gonna have to start working on those. But you got the groundwork going, so don't worry about it, because the tissue is gonna be healthy, but we wanna try to get that back into balance. Everyone loses as they age. If you have a 50 NTX, it's just normal aging loss, but we wanna do much better than that, which is tricky. Okay, friends, this has been great.
I told Sally we'll answer her question just because I think it's a quick one that you could answer.
Okay.
And then we'll wrap up. So right here.
Okie doke. Can we move the screen here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Here, I'll unmute her.
See, so this is a question that Sally has. It says, I will have Dr. Brown answer. Okay, Sally says, what's the question? Oh, my nutritionist regularly does tests where a scale measures bone, muscle, and water. Does this correlate to bone density? That is called a body composition test. I think it's a great idea. Some of them are more precise than the others, and we know that muscle mass pertains to bone mass. I'm working with a gym that has now very sophisticated testing. They do bone densities actually, and on the bone density machine you can actually measure lean muscle mass. And we're arguing, and I think you're going to truly see that lean muscle mass is correlated with bone density. And you yourself, watch yourself as you go through the years working with this nutritionist. Jot down what she says your bone is and what she says your muscle is. It's the lean body mass in relationship to the bone. And in fact, in Korea, just recently, they said, hey, well, let's just measure bone area, and that's going to predict fracture. I mean to say, let's just measure muscle area. And that's one of the things, it's actually one of the new campaigns of the Better Bones Foundation. You might know that I have a center where I do research, where I work with you clients, but I also have a little foundation. And one of the things we're doing this year is a campaign to encourage every woman to ask that they test the lean muscle mass at the same time they do the bone density. It can be done right on that machine. They have that data right there, but so they report it so that you see over time, as you lose muscle, you lose bone, and encourage us to go to the gym and try to maintain that muscle or do whatever we want to do, whatever type of exercise.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Great. And just closing to remember, exercise, we're loving the exercise evolution. If you want to do some at-home stuff, if you like Gina's kind of gentle model of strength training, go for it. Whatever, do some form of strength training. So we're having a lot of fun here. Be sure to keep in touch. I thank Alyssa for staying so late, and I thank you all for joining up. We hope to, I know I'll see some of you in consultations, but maybe some of you join us there in Pennsylvania. We know we're going to have a great time, and hopefully we're just waiting for spring here. We got about 2 foot of snow, and I look forward to seeing you all in person and talking to you with consultations. So thanks again, Alyssa. Thanks, everyone. Peace to you. Have a great time. We'll talk soon.